Hey guys, thank y'all for joining us for the Going Virtual session of the Alumni Volunteer Conference. My name is Erin Huddleston and I'm the Assistant Director for Alumni Volunteer Engagement here at the University of South Carolina Alumni Association. We appreciate you hopping on and just wanted to take a few minutes and walk you through virtual events and things that the Alumni Association has learned. We've been working from home at the time of this recording for about 8 weeks now. And, initially found ourselves kind of in the same position that so many people have. Now that we're working from home, what do? We host events, getting in front of alumni, engaging alumni. How can we continue that while we're working from home? So initially we purchased Zoom as a tool for our Black Alumni Council to use to continue their planning meetings. They hosted a couple happy hours and we saw that it really was a great way to continue to connect with alumni, even though, we're under social distancing guidelines right now. And so we decided, why not try to take this nationwide? So we've been hosting different series throughout the weeks, and we've empowered some of our clubs to use these, our affinity groups, and we really hope that not only is this a great tool while we are working from home, we hope that we can continue taking what we've learned during this time and use these tools moving forward as an association. So like I said, I want to take you through some of the features of Zoom and talk about some of the lessons we've learned. I've actually got a couple colleagues of mine waiting to get in the room right now. So now I'm showing you the waiting room feature, and I've actually got a couple of my colleagues waiting to get in on this call with us. So I'm going to go ahead and admit them. Hey.
Hello.
Hey guys. Do y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick?
Sure. Selena, you want to start?
Selena Chavis, Director of Alumni Engagement.
And I'm Haven Stanier, Director of Student and Young Alumni Engagement.
Okay, great. So I am going to continue to show you around a few different features here in Zoom. Like I said, that was the waiting room feature. That's great to use anytime that, really for any event that you're hosting. I'm sure most of y'all have heard about Zoom bombing, and this is kind of just some extra protection that you have control as to who's entering and leaving the room. So definitely a feature you want to consider using, and we'll touch on this a little bit later in our security portion of the presentation. Next, I want to show you the polling feature of Zoom. So I'm going to click here in the bottom of our taskbar and launch some polls. I went ahead and created these earlier. So I've launched the poll now, and you'll see there's a timer up here in the top right-hand corner, and we're seeing the results come in as we speak. So luckily, Haven and Selena both answered these questions correctly. We've used the polling feature for a couple of our trivia events, but aside from trivia, this is just a great way for any questions that you may have for your alumni. A fun one during a happy hour might be, what's your favorite beverage, or what did you bring to the happy hour? So you can toy around with these and play with some different ideas. Just wanted to show you that feature, and I'm going to go ahead and end the poll right now and share the results. So now Selena and Haven can actually see the results of that poll. So we'll stop sharing that, click out of there. And the next feature we'll talk about real quick, these are just fun, they're not necessarily practical, but is our virtual backgrounds. So you'll see I have my puppy in my background. Haven has a branded background at the University of South Carolina. And Selena, where are you at?
And I'm sitting on the porch of my favorite bed and breakfast that I wish I was at.
Perfect. So like I said, these may not be practical, but if you haven't cleaned your house, they're a great tool so nobody can actually see what your house looks like. So next, we will talk about spotlighting an event presenter. So right now, you'll see me as the big screen. I've spotlighted myself. These are great for events such as one of the series that we've been hosting a lot of is our Ask the Expert series, where we feature an alumni that's an expert in their field. So we really want them to be the center of attention for the event. Oftentimes they're hosting a presentation and then they'll do a Q&A session at the end of the event. So you kind of want the focus to be on them the entire time. You'll see Selena and Haven are up smaller in the top of the screen. And an additional feature is that we actually have the ability to turn their video off. So right now I'm going to stop Selena's video and you see she goes away. This is great. Selena, I'll bring you back. Hang on. How do I bring you? Unhide. Selena? Did I put you? She's coming back on in a second. So this is great anytime. Yeah, there you are. For instance, we just hosted a yoga and meditation event. Obviously, we want to spotlight the alum that is walking us through the yoga session, but we don't necessarily need to see every participant doing yoga poses at their house. So it's great to be able to turn people's audio and video off, especially, hopefully we never encounter this, but if an alum were maybe saying something that we want to be able to mute, of course, we have that ability, and in addition to being able to mute them, we can actually kick them out of the room altogether. And you'll find that on the right-hand side if you'll just hover over the participant's name, click on More, and there is an option to remove them from the room. So, Selena, we won't remove you this time, but don't act out in future. Another great feature to use is the chat feature. You'll also find that in the bottom taskbar. This is great for, let's say, a happy hour that may have, anywhere from 25 to 50 people. Obviously, having that many people talking at one time can get really chaotic quickly. So the ability to just post the messages in the chat room kind of cuts down on all of that audio that may be going back and forth. And even for our Ask the Expert series events, it's a great way for the participants to ask a question, and then once the expert has a chance to answer that question, they're kind of screening the questions themselves, and they'll answer them as they have time. So it's definitely a feature you want to utilize, especially for a Q&A type session. We definitely encourage that over people unmuting their audio. And I think that's it for all the features that we wanted to show you today. I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Haven, and she's going to talk about some of the different events that we've been hosting over these past few weeks.
All right, guys. So as Erin had mentioned before, I've been working on a lot of online events during this time through our Ask the Expert series. So I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about some online event ideas, as well as some lessons learned through the events that we've had so far. But just remember, the sky is the limit for online events. So really get your creative juices flowing. Whatever ideas you have, we can likely make. So a couple of ideas for events you may want to host could be virtual happy hours or coffee breaks. You could have virtual concerts or live DJs, or you could have some educational events such as hosting a speaker, a cooking class, a fitness class, or some sort of lunch and learn event. So as we've mentioned several times throughout, we have had a series called Ask the Expert that's been fairly successful. So I am going to share my screen with you guys just so you can see some examples of a few of those Ask the Expert events that we have done so far. So now you should be seeing my screen. Erin and Selena, you see everything okay?
Yep,
okay.
You're good if you'll just launch the presentation.
Perfect. So just a little click of a button at the bottom of your screen to share your screen. And I'll go through these events with y'all really quick. So our first event in the Ask the Expert series was fitness and nutrition, and Mallory is an alumna, and she actually reached out to us about leading this event when we were just formulating the Ask the Expert plan, so we gladly accepted. She does a lot of online events on her own, so she was a pro at this. She did a 30-minute workout followed by a nutrition Q&A that had a lot of participants asking really good questions. The next one we did was with Steel Hands Brewing. So that's a local brewery here in the Midlands, and that was hosted by Daryl Frick on the right-hand side of your screen. He's an alumnus and he is a co-owner of the brewery. And then Doug on the left side of your screen is their brewmaster. And this format was a little bit different. People were really asking questions in the chat throughout the event rather than the Q&A being just at the last 30 minutes of the event. We had great participation in this one. It was really fun. And all the surveys asked us to have more beer events. So we are taking that to consideration. The third event was Ask the Expert Homeschooling, led by Andrew. He is actually on the Columbia Gamecocks, so shout out to Andrew. But this one was a bit different from our first two, where those were more interest-based. This one was more educational, very specific and practical for what's going on in the world right now, helping out some of our alumni who may be trying to juggle homeschooling their kids with working from home. So this one was great. He also shared his screen during this event, which we had not experienced before because he had a PowerPoint, so that worked really well. Next, we had Craft Cocktails. So this was another just fun event. Brittany, who owns 72 Co., she's also an alumna. She taught us how to make 2 different types of cocktails that evening. And we actually put the list of ingredients for the cocktails needed out on the event page beforehand so that people could mix along with her that night, which was really fun. After Cocktails, we had one about the psychology of investing, so all things finance. They discussed a lot about the current stock market, how it's so unpredictable right now. So people had really good questions for them about investing in general, about their retirement funds. As you can see, this is another one where they shared their screen because they had a presentation. So another shout out to Jamie. He is the chair of DC Gamecocks. So we see our volunteers at work already. You guys are killing the online events. And then a few upcoming. We actually did, as Erin mentioned, just had this yoga and meditation event this week. And Sarah reached out to us about that one. So that was awesome. We also have Blender Bombs and mental health coming up. So Blender Bombs, you can make your smoothie along with this company that's alumna owned. And then the mental health one, because we know we're just in such crazy times, people could definitely use some good coping strategies during this time. So I am going to unshare my screen just to wrap this up with some lessons learned. So if you're hosting any type of social event, maybe a virtual happy hour, one suggestion I would have would be to allow people to share their video if they so choose, but to keep their audio muted unless they're the ones speaking. We found this works best to use the chat feature unless it's a very small group with a casual topic. This would also be a good way where you could explore some Zoom breakout rooms. If you have a really big group, you can kind of couple people into smaller groups so that it doesn't get super overwhelming with people talking a lot. As far as educational events, if you are having an event where you have a speaker, make sure you discuss all the content and the event timeline with the speaker beforehand so that everything runs smoothly. And then if they have any additional resources, say a website, or if they shared a PowerPoint during the event, you want to make sure that in your follow-up email to attendees, you can attach that so people can go back to it. And then just general virtual event tips. Not everyone who registers for the event will attend, and that's okay. Just for the Ask the Expert series, we've seen roughly half of the RSVPs are actually calling into the event. So don't get disheartened from that. People are just pulled in so many directions right now. The event won't be perfect, and that's okay. It's hard if you're a perfectionist, but it's a live event, so there will be things that happen. One event, we had a host who had trouble with the internet connection at some point. You're just gonna have to roll with the punches. People are really just happy to have human connection right now and a distraction from the stresses of life. Make sure you offer some diversity in the events that you are hosting. So don't have only social and happy hour events, or don't have only educational. Try to mix those up, target to different audiences that you may have. And then, as well as trying to change some of the content, try to vary your event times and days of the week, just so more people have the chance to join in. So we found that lunch hour works really well for our events, as well as 5 p.m. So right at the end of the workday, you can catch people. Those have been best for like our Coffee Tales event and our brewery event, before they start making dinner, hanging out with the family. I think you're going to lose them as you get further into the night. And then having the Q&A at the end, I think has really helped people stay engaged throughout the entire event. So we've had pretty good event numbers and people who are actually staying throughout the event rather than just logging on and logging off early. I would suggest not hosting an event longer than an hour. We all know about Zoom fatigue and you have other responsibilities going on. So I think capping it at an hour, short and sweet, is a good way to keep people engaged the whole time. And lastly, I would just suggest to send a survey at the end of your event, just so you can get feedback as to how you could improve that in the future.
Haven, that was great. And one thing I kind of wanted to add on top of that is that this is a really great opportunity to highlight the alumni in your area, and not only highlight them to your alumni in your community, but highlight them nationwide. Often when we do our live events, you have a very small audience that you can get in front of. And what we've seen with these virtual events is that, the sky really is the limit. This is a great time to start engaging alumni that we don't normally see out at live events, and just hope that you'll take advantage of the opportunity and try to continue to grow your networks in your communities. So next up, Selena's going to take some time to walk us through some of the security features of Zoom, some of the things that we've learned over the past few weeks, and any best practices moving forward that we suggest our volunteers use.
Thank you, Erin. So you've seen some of the features that Zoom can do. Now we're going to talk about security. Several security measures and guidelines have been put in place by Zoom, as well as the Alumni Association. And some of these settings are default settings that we'll use in place when setting up a meeting or event. This includes different passwords and meeting IDs for each session. So this will prevent any hacking from outside people that we do not want to attend certain events. We've also disabled the join before the host feature. This is to also prevent Zoom hackers and any other unwanted guests that may be there for the wrong reasons. Speaking of host, a host needs to be in place to monitor the event, as well as manage the waiting room feature that Erin mentioned earlier. This way they can view and approve of who is requesting to attend. So basically you're the bouncer at the door checking those IDs. For larger events, in addition to the host, we do ask that other volunteers help with letting participants in from this waiting room. This may be Alumni Association staff or other club volunteers that are helping and attending the events as well. This also provides additional security to monitor for any guests that may or may not be attending for the right reasons. We want to make sure that people are enjoying themselves, and we don't want to have to use the feature of having to kick someone out the room. This extra help is great for the chat feature. When you have a larger event as well, that chat can get pretty overwhelming if it's only the host that is monitoring that. And this way, that can help direct the questions directly to the speaker if you have someone that is a special guest. One of the other guidelines is the locked meeting feature. For example, if you are having a closed meeting for an affinity group or club officers, you may want to use this locked feature once all the expected attendees are in the room. That way that you provide that extra security of not having anyone hack into that meeting, especially if there is confidential information being discussed. This might not be a good option for a larger event because you don't want to be unlocking and locking during the meeting and people missing some valuable information. We will move forward and have a full list of security measures and guidelines listed on our website. And so with our help and yours, we'll be able to make sure that meetings and events are secure in this new virtual environment that we're in.
Okay, great. Thank you, Selena. We hope that this presentation has been helpful for you guys and has really gotten your creative juices flowing for some potential virtual events moving forward. Although the virtual events kind of came about during a time of the pandemic, we really foresee that these types of events can continue to engage alumni across the country and in your local communities moving forward. So please use your staff liaison. We're here to help you bounce any ideas that you may have off of us. Nothing is a bad idea. Think outside of the box and know that we are always here to answer any questions that you may have. So let's get out there, host some virtual events, and go Gamecocks.